Sandbags here, but we do have this nice rifle bench, and it has a V-notch here that we can rest as a bench rest. The target is downrange at 25 yards. We're going to aim for the black circle, obviously. It was communicated that this gun is sighted in at 25 yards, and the center of the front dot is on center. So we're going to shoot 5 shots downrange. You know, with rifle, you usually do 3. We're going to do 5, just because it's 25 yards with a pistol. We have since re-zeroed the sights, and we want to verify, you know, we want to take the higher average. So I'm going to shoot 5 shots downrange. And wedge it in there. That's my rest. All right, so that's 1. That's 1. There's 2. All right, doing 5 more. All right, so I shot 5 more. 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 out here. All right, so we're kind of all over the place at 25 yards. It is tough to really zero the gun on this because the front dot is so big, and it's center of the dot is on center for the gun. So if we take our average here, yeah, you know, if we take your whole average here, yeah, the 0 is somewhere around here, right? It's pretty difficult to do target style shooting with a gun that's not zeroed for target shooting. Those center of the dot type sights are more defensive style sight picture, so it is difficult to get these up. If we were shooting like our CZs or whatnot, you would line up your 3 dots about here, you know, you'd line your 3 dots here, and you'd be getting center impacts. Alright, I just wanted to redo that group so it's consistent, same mag. And had some high, some low. So we're sitting around 0. Happy with that. Not the greatest with this gun. So we'll run it on steel and see how it is for moving and shooting. All right, so we're at like 21 yards right now. The sun's beaming into my eyes, so a little tough to see the target, but I'm going to shoot this in a consistent succession. All right, couple misses, mostly because of glare. Can't see anything, but I can confidently say that it's now on target. Between zeroing it, doing 7 yards, 25 yards with the bag, and then shooting 15 on steel. So it is now consistently hitting. Now we're gonna run it a couple hundred rounds through it today and get everything on track. See how it's tracking the whole day. All right, so our previous video, when we had the 2 failures to feed off of the slide drop, or we had like a stovepipe round, like not a stovepipe, but a failure to feed where it was jammed up in. One of our viewers round counted while we were in the video while we were shooting, and there was only 15 rounds in each of those mags that both had those failure to feed problems. So we were not overloading the mag when we had those feeding issues. You can go back to the previous video and count if you'd like. But because everyone says I'm a moron and don't know how to count, these perforated holes in the side, they're symmetrical. So the right-hand side of the mag, we'll call this the right-hand side. The last one would be 14, and on the left side would be 15. So because everyone said I don't know how to count, I made sure that I had these custom laser engraved with silver Sharpie, that I will never overload these, and I do know what the 15 round indicator is. You know, I even had it super laser etched right there to indicate it. You know, when you're at the range, you're shooting the shit with your buddies. You might not know how many rounds you put in your magazine. So, you know, it's always nice to know what your benchmark is. So you know, that's what I'm just going to clean this mag real quick. All right, so we verified that the gun is centered, so to speak. We bagged it. We've been shooting. I'm going to put 45 rounds now on steel at 20 yards. You know, it's a soft shooter. It feels great in the hands. You're going to see it up close while we're shooting these 45. You'll get a better view. You'll probably get a good 360 view of how it ejects brass. It's probably one of the most consistent brass ejectors. It's perfectly consistent. I could stand here still and shoot, and there would be a very, tidy pile of brass because of this gun. But for a precision manufactured gun, it is not, in my opinion, it's not a precision shooter, right? It's got decent groupings at 25 yards. I would like to see Hudson come out with target type sights, either 3-dot, but let's just use the phrase apple on a post type sighting. So when you have all 3 sights lined up, you would put the center dot of the target on top of that post. That is target sighting, target style shooting. And that's what most shooters are familiar with. Similar sight pictures to this are Sig Sauer. Their number 8 sights would be the same center of that dot would be the point of impact. But because this is a Trijicon HD big dot, it's a very large dot. You know, it's got the tritium center, and it makes it a lot more difficult placing very calculated shots. So when I'm kind of running this at a little bit farther distance, stretched out, my shots are all over the steel. They're not impacting like center of mass like I wish they would. Does that have anything to say as me as a shooter? Probably not. You guys have seen me shoot in the past. I don't really have a problem shooting. I can shoot my CZs all day. I could punch that hole out of that black at 20 yards with my CZ. But with that being said, it's just a different style of shooter. So it's something that I'm not that familiar with. I'm sure there's plenty of guys out there that shoot 8.8 style, point aim, point impact sighting that can punch that hole out. So that's just our opinion and our 2 cents of how this gun shoots. It feels great in the hands, very consistent. And since we've kind of left some mags loaded, jammed them, unjammed them, it's been a lot easier to manipulate the firearm. I have had less hang-ups, less issues, and now it's on target. So it's now a pleasure to shoot. So I'll put 45 rounds through it, consistently, and quickly. All right, smooth 45. Handful of misses there. That's just kind of getting off of it. It's a little colder out. It's about 38 degrees right now here in New Hampshire. It's a full steel gun, so the gun's starting to get cold and slip out of my hands a little bit. But yeah, I had some pretty solid impacts, pretty solid hits, and pretty solid consistency. One thing here though, a couple customers of Hudson that had posted, they've had some pretty aggressive slide bite. I ride the gun pretty high, as you can see. You can see I got some grease marks from the slide coming back over the top of my hand. It did not bite me, but I've heard a lot of people say that the slide does contact their hand like that. So it's just something to notate. Everyone's a different shooter. Everyone purchases the gun differently. I ride extremely high up on the gun. But someone who had purchased one said that they had took a couple chunks out of their hand. So. All right, 15 rounds. So we got 14 round indicator on this side. That is 15. Not really sure why that happened. The first one of today. All right, picked up. All right, so we're shooting 124 grain Nevada ammunition. This is remanufactured ammo. Nothing special. We ran, so this was 1,100 rounds was in this at the start of the day. About 40% depleted. Let's say about 400 rounds were fired through this gun today. It performed well. Bump the side stuff there. It performed really well. We only had that one hang up with this magazine where it failed to feed off of the initial slide drop. It failed to feed off the initial slide drop twice with the same round, and we replaced the top round with a fresh one. It did it a third time on camera, so we had 3 malfunctions off the slide drop with that. This was the same issue we had with 2 of the mags in the previous video. I'm not sure if it's a mag thing, if it's a feeding thing with the gun. Cy, the owner, did recommend that I ride a higher center point and just practice with it. So I was dry firing around the house for the past week, practicing dry fires and pressing more off the center mass of the trigger so I don't get that pinch. So that has definitely helped. The gun itself is now really fun to shoot. I don't have any of the grinding issues of the mags grinding inside the off the latch anymore because I smoothed that out. And truly, it is a comfortable and fun gun to shoot. I was just running around the range a little bit while I was dumping these mags. We don't have it on video, but I was running around shooting it. And once I go back to my basics, and when I'm shooting more instinctually, and I'm not forcing myself to use this sight picture, but I'm shooting instinctually, the grip angle of this gun and the feel of it with my cadence, it shoots very naturally for me. So I really don't have to track the sights as much as I originally thought I needed to. So I shoot this gun a lot better now. It is fun to shoot, and I can probably confidently say that I can carry this as a defensive firearm moving forward now that I'm more confident in the system and more confident in myself. Noticing something here. So we have 900 rounds through the gun, and the ejection, the recoil system's guide rod is protruding out a little farther than it normally does. I'll have to take it apart when we get back to the house, but that's weird. I've been shooting it and it's sticking out now, and it's a little wobbly. It's like almost like it's not even seated. All right, so I know this is not like the best lighting, and I'm doing this by myself, but I would just want people to see. We spoke to the owner, Cy, and we figured out what the problem was. Problem is, it's not really a problem. Hudson designed this recoil assembly to be threaded in, and it is threaded in so that users can change the weight of their springs if they want. I didn't find anything about this in the handbook, the user handbook. But what it is that's threaded, and while we were at the range, it came unthreaded. There's no tool that comes with the gun. So, all right, so I removed it by hand, unthreaded it by hand. You can see there's a flat spot there. So there's a wrench flat there. But when you install this, you're not going to see it here, but when you install it, see that little hole way down in there? There's no way to get a wrench in there. So this wrench flat is probably used at the factory where they assemble that assembly. They probably pull the recoil spring back, and then they use a small wrench to torque it down. There's no Loctite on it. There's no anything there to keep it in place. There's no flat spot or wrench or hex head up here to use a tool to tighten it. And then it was under so much tension. For someone like myself that's very well versed in guns, this will be a nightmare. For any other person who is buying this as, you know, their weekend shooter, and to service this gun is a nightmare. Finally got it. So what I did was I compressed the spring a little bit, and I used the tip of my multitasker to sit between the spring and the rod, and I was able to get a couple threads, like 1.5 threads turned by rotating the whole firearm in my hand while pivoting it off that. So I got it in. I'm going to finish it tightening it up. I'm going to use the multitasker that has aluminum jaws, and I'm going to tighten that up. You can see the gun's clear. I paint markered the muzzle and the top of the guide rod to indicate what is fully tightened in. So it starts to rotate, I will know. Guys, click like, subscribe, check us out, leave a comment. We love to hear feedback.